So today we are going to talk about CSR and what that means for a law firm. What is the importance of having a CSR initiative and strategy kind of involved in your business planning and business strategy. And we're going to dive a little bit into why it's so important to have some kind of initiative or some type of cause that is attached to what it is that your law firm supports. First off, let's define what CSR is and what CSR stands for. So CSR is corporate and social responsibility. And generally that is corporate and social responsibility, of course, related to your corporation, related to your business. It cause-related initiatives that, corporations can be involved in. It's quite broad. It isn't specific to an industry. It isn't specific to a cause, right? And it isn't specific to how big or how small your corporation is, or how big or small your corporate responsibility burden or input or support or program is, right? It's just CSR, and to each company it is what it is, right? It could be something really small. It could be something that you do once a year. It could be something that you do on an ongoing basis. It could be volunteering. It could be donations. It could be lots of things. However, it is generally your corporation's efforts into the community of which it's a part of, how it, contributes to that community to thrive, having the ability to, grow, to help others that perhaps may not have resources, whatever that case may be. And, one thing to note is that your CSR program doesn't have to just be local. It can be wide, just kind of depending on what is decided upon or what works best for your organization, but that is generally what CSR, meaning corporate and social responsibility, is. So now let's talk about what is important about a CSR to a law firm. So unfortunately, law firms and the legal industry have gotten a little bit of a bad rap in terms of what a lawyer does, or what a law firm charges and how it's charged and how they make their money. And there are some things that generally people think about law firms and lawyers that may not necessarily be true for all law firms. Unfortunately, some apples in the bag have spoiled the basket, but it just makes it that much harder to be regarded as a law firm of high integrity and character, as well as lawyers of good character and integrity, right? So that makes it even more important to have a CSR program attached, where you're doing more than just collecting funds from your clients for billable hours that you're, quote unquote, said to just be stacking up, or just be billing a client just to bill to meet a quota that you've set. And like I said, unfortunately, that is something that is as oftentimes said about attorneys and the law industry, that it's all about, it being a money grab. And, sometimes you as a law firm have to put some extra effort into your CSR program to differentiate yourself from law firms that perhaps may have done this in the past, or to get around the perception that has been placed on lawyers and law firms. So that is why having a CSR program wrapped into your strategy is important, because it helps differentiate you from your competitors, yes. It also, like I said, waters down and kind of takes you away from that perception that has been placed in people's minds about lawyers and law firms. But in addition to that, and this is stemming off a little bit from the point I made about contributing to your community, oftentimes when people are selecting an attorney, and let's just say, for example, that the practice area that you're focusing on is on malpractice, right? So medical malpractice. And this happens to be an area where a lawyer can generate a large amount of billable money from taking those types of personal injury cases. Now, if the attorneys involved, the team involved, or perhaps the firm that's involved is a little bit more deeply entrenched and involved in what that means, meaning that, malpractice and medical malpractice is just not what they do for work, but instead they have a real, true obligation, their CSR and, a true heart for, the clients that they're serving, meaning that this is not only about, being able to bill a client for injuries that they're, bringing a case for, but instead really and truly deeply within their hearts as people, they feel for their clients and they feel for people who are impacted by medical malpractice and the negligence of, doctors, nurses, and hospitals that, kind of just made things happen, just being reckless or just being negligent or whatever the case is, right? So connecting on a level that's not just you ticking the boxes and really displaying that in your content strategy, in your business development plan, in the way that you communicate and carry yourself when you're communicating with your clients, and also how you show up in your community, whether, like I said, that is locally or is that internationally or whatever the case is, but showing up really, heart engaged, heart involved in what this initiative is, and beyond, like I said, the billable part, right? Perhaps it might be an organization or foundation that has been started, it exists already, that focuses on, perhaps it might be a nonprofit that works to help people who don't have money to take a case to court, or don't have the resources, and perhaps it might be pro bono work that you contribute to, or perhaps you submit funds to allow other attorneys to practice and represent these individuals. So the short of it is that when you are involved in, things outside of, billing for the work and standing up for the client in court or representing that client in a mediation, instead, this is you being a part of the community, being more deeply involved where it's personal to you and it's not just business, right? So that makes it so much more touching for a client, where, they don't feel like they're just another transaction or just another client. Instead, you really have a heart for this, and, their best interests are going to be looked after and considered when you take on their case. And when they're considering attorneys, these are some of the things that, are looked at. They look to see what you're involved in, and oftentimes that level of trust is needed to engage a client, to bring a client on board successfully and much easily. Sometimes is related to how you show up in your community and what your CSR choice is and what you're connected to, and how deeply involved and dear and near this cause is to you, and essentially the work that you're doing, right? So it just can't be transactional. It just can't be business. Instead, it has to be deeper than that. It has to be what you really believe and what you're really going to stand up for, what you're going to really represent your clients if and when they need you, right? So that's what having a CSR program means, and why it's important for a law firm to have one. So just a little bit of advice in terms of how you make a selection on what your CSR program may look like. And again, this is a part of your strategy, your strategic business development, is look at the practice area that you're in. Look at the specifics of it. What industry are you in? And then start doing some searches around, whether it's in your local community, whether it's nationally or internationally, to see what it is that you can get involved in. Like I said, it could be that you're making financial donations to this organization. You could be starting your own organization. You can essentially start your own nonprofit and let it start doing things. that show your interest, that show how dedicated you are to what you do beyond it being just business. And just get involved in it, connect, figure out how you can get involved. Like I said, you can volunteer your time, or perhaps you could do it as an entire organization where your employees give their time to that organization. Like I said, whether it's internal, meaning that it's a foundation that you start, a nonprofit that you start, or it could be an existing one. So, I just wanted to jump on here on our Wind Down Wednesday to give you, some insights of what CSR is, how it works, how it would benefit a law firm, why it matters, and some ideas on how you identify the best CSR program that perhaps you may want to get involved in. So I'm Antonia Berry, CEO of Impersonations Atlanta. Thank you very much for joining us. My contact details are going to be displayed at the end of this video. Thank you so very much for watching.